Welcome to the Confidence Through Health podcast. My name is Jerry Snyder. As a health, wellness, and sports performance coach, my goal each week is to bring you experts to help you take control of your health and build your self-confidence. Thanks for including me today on your journey to better health. I want to say thank you to Social Media Cowboys for sponsoring this week's episode of the Confidence Through Health podcast. If you need help with a website, if you need social media needs for your business, if you need help with AdWords, SEO, all those things that you know you should be doing, but you are too busy to do or you're too confused about, they are the experts that you need in your corner. If you're interested in launching a podcast, such as mine, they help me edit my podcast and do a fantastic job making sure that all of the technical side of it is handled and we launch a nice, neat, edited podcast episode each week. So I want to thank Social Media Cowboys for their continued sponsorship of the Confidence Through Health podcast. You can find them at socialmediacowboys.com, or you can find them as well with other sponsors at confidencethroughhealth.com. Welcome, Sahar, to the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Thank you, Jerry. Glad to be here.
So one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you and get down into is and it's about women, and you deal a lot with women, but I want to make sure that before we begin anything, that if a guy's listening to this, that it can be 100%, it can relate to them 100%, whether it's their own body or their spouse or their sister or their mother who's going through issues, and it can help them understand, like, okay, this is what's going on and why they're frustrated. Because I imagine dealing with women in nutrition and dieting and the culture, you see a lot of frustrated clients.
Yes, I do. And you made a great point, because men also go through a lot of symptoms and hormones, and it definitely does impact, their lives. And so women, now we're starting to talk more about some of the things they're going through, where it's still it's not as comfortable, or it's not as open for some men. So definitely some of the things that I'm talking about can apply when we're talking about cortisol, stress to men as well. And, we all have individuals around us, wives, kids, that are going through this. So hopefully this knowledge can apply to them.
Yep. Well, and you mentioned kids, and that's something that I think a lot of people are not truly grasping yet. Is
Yes.
We all know childhood obesity sort of blew up in the last, couple of decades, but the hormone effects of that and what's happening with kids, and we see symptoms and we just address it as like, oh, well, that's just increasing, or maybe we weren't testing for that before, and so but a lot of these things are related to nutrition, hormone changes, and just we're not dealing with it properly from an early stage, and so it just gets compounded as we get older, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we used to think that, PCOS and menopause, but it's beyond that. We're seeing ladies as early as 20s, in their 30s, having issues like weight issues, acne, anxiety, and irregularity, even infertility, which is definitely, causing it's a cause of these hormones, right, that are being impacted by different things that, as we talk about it and we try to address it, yes, it does help a lot of these young teens that are going through these problems.
Right. And it's nutrition, because nutrition is the basis of what's like giving our gut what it needs to create our hormones and all of that, right? So it's like, it really does boil down to you are what you eat, because if you eat junk, your hormones are going to get messed up, and then everything gets haywire function wise in your body, right?
Yes, yes. Interesting enough, our gut metabolizes or helps estrogen get metabolized in the body. So there are gut-friendly bacteria, estrogen, that help to regulate the body, the gut microbiome. And if they're regulating the estrogen. So if there's an imbalance in the gut, then you can see estrogen building up.
Right.
and causing these symptoms, and like the heavy period, like the migraines, like the mood swings. So a huge part of nutrition is that gut microbiome, what
Mhm.
we're intaking and how we're supporting it. So you're absolutely correct in that the way we are supporting our body and the way we are supporting our gut microbiome, interesting enough, impacts our estrogen. So
Mhm.
here we have our estrogen that's being impacted, which a lot of times are overlooked.
Right. And it's overlooked because we might go to a traditional doctor and get blood tests done, and if everything is normal, they just basically say everything's normal.
Yes, yes.
But that
And
doesn't mean
so
everything's normal.
not everything is normal. And
Right.
normally, when you're having some of these symptoms, it's your body telling you there's something off.
Yeah.
So, this is why we dive deeper and do some functional testing, like even as simple as a GI map stool test
Mhm.
that gives you a full analysis of your gut microbiome, knowing what are the types of good bacteria, what are the types of bad bacteria. So, you're not just solely trying to eliminate, or you hear on the internet, okay, I got to remove this, I have
Right.
to remove these, but really know where your intestinal health is at. And knowing what the gut microbiome is will allow you to remove the toxins, help nourish the right probiotics, because as
Mhm.
we know there's so many types out there
Right.
in the supermarkets. It's overwhelming,
Mhm.
and as a average consumer it's hard to know what you need.
Yeah.
And so when there are these functional tests that you can do to know exactly which type of probiotic your soldiers or your gut needs,
Yeah.
then you can help balance that, reinoculate the gut, and here you have your estrogen. And so
Yeah.
all these heavy cycles, acne can be resolved in these teens, or even weight issues that are rising because of the gut microbiome imbalance, and
Right.
learning how to support the gut and nourish your foods the right way.
Well, and I love that point because like I was approached at the grocery store a couple of weeks ago by someone who they saw my shirt that said health and wellness, and they were like, "Oh, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." And they have a teen who is going into her senior year, and so there's a lot of anxiety, right? That's just you're a
Yes.
senior in high school, and there's just a lot of anxiety and a lot of pressure, and you're trying to figure out where you're going to go to college, and so there's a lot in that aspect of it just alone. But she said she's had heavy periods like since she started her cycle. She gets migraines, all these things, and she started throwing out. I heard from this person who was an influencer that she needed more of this probiotic strain, and so I'm going after, and that's what I'm. And I started just going like, but has she been tested? Like, do you know that that's the one that because there's so many out there,
There's so
and
many.
you can get the wrong one. It might be great from a research shows this one works for these people and da da da. But if it's not the one that you need, like that's where the frustration comes in, right? Where it's like you can just start going down a trail and you miss the first step and you're on the wrong path completely.
Yes, yes. And you made an important point about teens, chronic stress,
Hmm.
as well as anxiety. And that chronic stress that carries on from early childhood to even adolescence to adulthood does impact our other hormone, which is our cortisol levels,
Hmm.
which as a result impacts the progesterone. So then you see some impact in thyroid, insulin
Hmm.
sensitivity, where a lot of adults are noticing it,
Yeah.
as well as food sensitivity, where you can eat something. Couple weeks later, you can't tolerate the same thing. So you're
Right.
constantly restricting.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of influencers out there that, they have some message. It's just not wrong.
You're right.
But I do agree with really testing yourself,
Hmm.
to know. If you know your gut microbiome, then you know the right probiotic. Then your anxiety can be nourished better,
Right.
because if your stomach is healthier, you can eat the right nutrition and digest it better. So
Yeah.
you're absorbing and helping support your body. The same thing with the cortisol. If your cortisol levels are balanced, then you can support the progesterone. So you can support the food sensitivity, the anxiety that comes along with that. And so that's where I find that when we do testing, not just random testing, but really to discover the
Mhm.
science behind what's going on, to dive deeper. So there are many companies like we use For You Health, but there are many companies that even do food sensitivity tests,
Mhm.
which can help you identify which is triggering,
Yeah.
as well as hormone tests. And I think what happens with a lot of individuals is that they don't realize or they don't test for their cortisol levels.
Mhm.
So if you can test for the cortisol levels and knowing the levels it's at, then you can also help reduce
Right.
that anxiety. And so these are symptoms that a lot of women we face. But
Well,
this,
and like you said, the cortisol level, like you stress is increasing that, right? And so like if
yes,
we're having a stressful life or but if we're not eating properly, and when I say that, I want to make sure I'm clear because I saw something on your website and what you in that like it's personalized nutrition. So like eating
yes,
properly is different depending on who you are and what's going on in your gut,
it,
which is why some people can eat a certain way and all of a sudden they start losing weight and then they go, "Hey, you should try this." And the other person's like, "Nothing's happening."
yes, yes. We look at every individual differently, because we all are different. The
Yeah.
way our bodies functions, the way our bodies process foods. And so we can be going through an umbrella of symptoms,
Hmm.
like general, where a lot of people have the anxiety or the acne or the gut issues, but we personalize and use holistic approach to see what's going on, what type of foods you're eating,
Right.
what we need to do to support your body. The testing are just complementary to
Hmm.
figuring out what types of support you need to remove toxins and
Right.
repair your body. But we customize everything because you're absolutely correct. It's not a one size fit all. This
Right.
is why people will try using something and they're like, it didn't work for me. Or they get stuck. They'll start doing a diet because they
Yeah.
hear this is a great thing to do, fasting, intermittent fasting or elimination diet, which are
Right.
great, but it needs to be tailored
Yeah.
to your environment, what you're eating, your body. And so we do see better results when you customize
Right.
the plan. It's kind of like wearing an outfit, right?
Yeah.
You try it on,
Hmm.
you see if it fits, it looks different on each person.
Right.
And you need a tailor sometimes to
Yeah.
adjust it and make it look good. So
Right.
that's the whole goal of nutrition, is to support our body so we feel good,
Yeah.
um, and can be, at our optimal self.
Right. And that's one of the things is that I know I've heard women say this before is like, I tried it on the store, it looked great. I got it home and it didn't look so good anymore. And a piece of that is okay, lighting's different, environment's different. Um, but also it's like, okay, well, your body is going to change over time. And sometimes that's from day to day, sometimes that's months at a time, and we're going to fluctuate back and forth. And so it's unrealistic to look at a scale and say, I want to be X pounds for the rest of my life because we're going to fluctuate, we're going to change, and it's more about what's going on internally. And like you said, like the feeling of can I handle my stress? Can I handle these things? Are my hormones balanced? Not necessarily balanced every minute of every day, because that's probably unrealistic, but can I live in a balanced environment most of the time? Am I
Yes.
right with that?
Yes, I actually, when I work with women with weight loss, because that's an issue that specifically when you're going through the hormonal changes
Hmm.
and starting the perimenopausal to menopause and postmenopausal, our bodies change, and it's really hard to look at our image,
Yeah.
and we're so used to as looking at ourselves differently, and now we have a complete different body. We have um, visceral fat buildup. We have different fat distribution of subcutaneous fat that we
Right.
weren't used to. Our bodies look different, and the type of clothes that we're wearing is little looks differently.
Right.
So I always tell my clients to put aside the scale.
Yeah.
Let's first modify our diets, support our body, because that's a huge impact. We can, and I see that a lot where ladies are, clients that come in, they're female. We've been doing the same thing over and over, and
Yeah.
now things are different.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people experience that.
Yeah.
And this is where we look at different types of fat. So we're talking about your subcutaneous fat, your skin fat, your muscle mass, your
Right.
protein. When you're analyzing all the different factors that go into your body weight, then it can see what area you need to support and what
Right.
area you have too much of. Then it's very easy to customize and tailor. When you get on the scale and you hear this general, will do this and eliminate this process, it's very hard.
Yeah.
So having the complete analysis of what's going on, supporting that hormone will help that distribution of the
Mm.
fat. And then you notice that, oh, yes, my inches are changing.
Right.
And then the number comes on. I usually notice women come in, they look great, and they're like, the number's still the same.
Right.
Because first the inches changes, right? When you're
Yeah.
supporting your body, the measurements changes a little different than when you're younger. You
Yeah.
notice the scale faster. You have a child, you keep putting them on the scale to making sure they
Right.
gain weight.
Yeah.
As we get older, it's a little different. And so that's where I tell, all my clients, don't go so much by the number.
Yeah.
See what else is happening, support that. And then the number will ultimately go down.
Right. Um, and it goes down differently for each person, again, based
Yeah.
on what's going on internally, how your gut's handling things, how your hormones are handling things, like, and that can fluctuate for that person as well, right? Like one week it can be more than the next month.
Yes.
And again, where that frustration lies, but ultimately, as I'm sure you know, with all the years that you've done this and the clients that you've had, it's the compounding effect of, don't get stuck in what am I doing today for tomorrow, like, but get stuck in what am I doing today for a year and a half from now, because that's going to be a completely different person if I continue this process.
Yes. Yes. And what's important, that noticing that, you're not alone. A lot of people are going
Mhm.
through these.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely correct. The changes will happen. The process is a little different. So
Yeah.
if we think about a stubborn child and it's having a tantrum, you just can't expect it to do what you want it to do.
Yeah.
So as we go through the menopause, our bodies are like that child.
Oh
It's having a
gosh.
tantrum. It's annoying, but it's acting out.
Yeah.
And we have to hear it and listen to it and give it a little bit what it needs so that it can help us in the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
And so not getting frustrated at it
Yeah.
and not trying to beat yourself up for it is a key.
I love that analogy. I've never heard anybody say it that way before, but I can immediately go like, oh, I can relate to that, like, and see, because my wife has gone through some of these things, and so it's like I can see in her reactions and frustrations and how she's voicing things, like, oh my gosh, that's totally true of what's going on inside in her body. She's reacting to it mentally, going, no, 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 that's not. But her body's saying, no, I'm having a tantrum right now. So whatever you normally try is not going to work.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Um, crazy.
It's a
It
different way of looking at it, but then
it
you
is.
actually feel better about it and
Yeah.
can approach it in a different way
Yeah.
rather than going head on
Yeah.
and not winning the game.
Right. And so at that point, like, for those parents that are out there that have had that child doing that, we all know, like, okay, there's a certain point where this tantrum just says, okay, I just
Yes.
finish and take your 10 minutes to cool down, and then we'll talk about it. Or, like, but there's no way I'm getting anything rational happening in this moment. So when somebody's feeling their body that way, like how should they go about, is that the moment where it's okay, I need to talk to somebody who's a professional, or I need to go back to this is what I learned, or things that maybe I've already gone through the process and understanding what my gut's doing, and now it's reacting again. Do I need to go back to those tried and true things and try and you know, hold a balance and get things to calm down?
I think initially it's always great to speak to a professional
Mhm.
because when your body's having a tantrum, it's not something you're used to.
Yeah.
So we don't know how to approach it.
Mhm.
And we can be trying different things, but it might not be working. And then
Right.
it can get more frustrating. So I think it's very important to talk to a professional, see what's going on. I mean, it's clear that our body's acting out. It wants to be heard.
Right.
It's clear that there's definitely our age, our hormones are impacting it. And so seeking that professional help, then it's a lot easier when it acts out again
Yeah.
to know, let's go back to
Right.
what I've learned. But initially, I think it's very important because it's something new and foreign that we're not used to. It's better to seek multiple advice,
Mhm.
and I always say, seek an advice of a functional practitioner. So we're a functional nutrition company. So we
Mhm.
use different techniques and to support you rather than just a traditional method
Right.
because we understand that every individual is different,
Right.
and so we have to customize it.
Yeah.
So I would go seek advice, have a blueprint
Right.
of what you need to do for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Then you can go back on the lessons that you've learned and tweak it.
Right. Well, and so there's a couple things there, but one, I want to make sure that people heard that you said for the next couple of years. Like this is not this is going to be fixed in a week scenario for the vast majority of people. I'm sure there's the anomalies where it's like, oh my gosh, that turned around so fast. But for most people, this is a longer term change that's going through because, and because your body's going through that change over time. It's not, you don't just wake up one day and boom, everything's like it's starting to change, right? And so it's a long-term process that people have to go, okay, I understand this is going to take time. It's not as much as we want quick fixes with everything in life, it's just not going to be that way.
It can take up to 7 years.
Oh my gosh,
So
yeah.
so we have to be patient, and this
Mhm.
is why I say to opt for going to
Yeah,
get professional advice because it's not your a 1 month or 2 month process. It is a
yeah,
long term. 7 years is a long time
right.
to have to be dealing with this,
Yeah,
and as women, the symptoms vary
right.
for each person. So I agree with you that it's not a short process, and you have to know that you're in it for a long run.
Right.
So this is why we want to take the steps,
Yeah.
go the right way, so that you're not struggling later on, because what we do during the menopause phase impacts us as we get older past the
Right.
menopause phase.
Right.
So it does linger, and we're seeing more and more individuals living longer life.
Hmm.
And that's what we're all seeking, longevity and good health.
Right.
So this is where the early steps are important.
Right. And the other point being looking for a functional practicing practitioner versus a traditional practitioner, because uh, it, for lack of better way to put it, or just for simple, if people don't understand that, a functional is going to look at the whole body and go,
Yes.
what's going on with every single thing. Whereas a traditional is going to go, oh, you've got this symptom, let's fix this symptom. And that symptom may have, and this is where I'm, and I don't necessarily want to take this whole conversation this way, but with the weight loss drugs that are out there, this is what scares me the most, is that it's just it's a symptom that it's trying to fix, and it's not addressing anything about what's really going on in the body. And I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see massive complications from that. But that's the big thing to look at, is if you go somewhere and they just say, oh, well, this will take care of that symptom for you. that should be a red flag, right? Of like, okay, wait, are you trying to fix the root cause though?
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Because no matter which route you do, even if you do hormone replacement, or even if you're going into those weight loss drugs, at the end of the day, you have to know the tools and what your body's going through
Mhm.
to help support it. And we do not want to, especially with foods, with herbs, with flowers, with nourishing your body, you want to look at the whole body approach.
Mhm.
Everything is connected. The
Yeah,
brain, the gut, how it regulates the hormones and how it shows in your body is all connected.
right.
So if we're just trying to target a particular symptom, we are going to miss out on everything else that our body is asking us and
Right.
needs that support. And you're right, because we are seeing now even people are having hard times, and that's
Mhm.
why there's new drugs coming out
Right.
every month or every couple of months,
Yeah.
because the behavior change, the support that we need
Yeah.
is not being emphasized.
Right.
And we have to take control and be an advocate for our own health. I tell my clients to be an advocate for yourself.
Mhm.
If you're not an advocate, then it's very easy to fall into the system
Oh
of
yeah.
going into the system of drugs after drugs are not being addressing
Yeah.
what you're going through. So you have to be an advocate, search out what you need, and when your body's going through this, it's seeking help. So we
Mhm.
need to listen to it.
Right. And it can be hard,
Yes.
right? And it's taking the long road is never the easier approach in when you're looking at it going, oh my gosh, but once you get to the end, I'm sure you've got clients that can just be like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. My life is now set up to where I know I'm going to be able to live a longer, healthier life. And and they're not stuck in that system of now I have to be on the next drug and now I have to be on the next thing and I have to go and check up and make sure that, nothing's being changed by all these drugs that I'm on and side effects and how they're interacting with each other.
Yes. When we are talking about the whole wellness approach, one of the factors was a lot of people seek drugs is
Mhm.
because they're going through a lot of stress. In our culture, stress is around all the time, and
Yeah,
sometimes it's very hard to make that behavioral change,
right.
or it's instilled in us.
Yeah,
And I have clients that just have a hard time to relax or
right.
meditate and breathe.
Yeah.
And so, with that whole wellness approach, we have a health coach to help you. So, while we're modifying your diet, making that behavioral change. And I
Mhm.
think this is where the whole body approach is important, because at times when you try to make a change and you have so much stress
Yeah.
and so much anxiety, it's hard
Yeah.
to make those changes. But being able to support your body and finding a way to breathe,
Yeah.
relax, lower that stress can help whatever you're doing to your body
Mhm.
absorb and see better results.
Right. And am I correct in saying that like your gut has good bacteria and bad bacteria? I think we all know that. And as you're making these changes to a healthier, am I correct in saying like the bad bacteria is going to fight back, saying, I want to survive. You can't get rid of me, and cause problems and issues that, are directly related to I'm trying to get healthier, but it feels like I'm getting worse in the start of this.
So normally what happens is the bad bacteria, that's interesting that you said that. It would be obvious for that to happen, but the
Right.
bad bacteria, so the imbalance in the gut microbiome can happen when they say leaky gut, because the
Right.
gut has gotten weak, being stress or toxins have come into the body. And so the microbiome, the good bacteria and the bad bacteria are off.
Right.
And the only way to really fix that is to remove the toxins,
Hmm.
remove the bad bacteria.
Right.
So by making the behavioral change, we help support our soldiers. So it's fighting our
Right.
bodies. And so our bad bacteria are not overproducing, or they're
Mhm.
not, the population is not increasing in our gut. However, there are individuals that we see that have made that modifications, have started incorporating more anti-inflammatory foods,
Right.
have brought in more probiotic rich foods like sauerkraut or apple cider, and
Mhm.
they're still noticing symptoms.
Right.
So because the bacteria imbalance has never been, the toxins have never been removed.
Mm.
And so that's why we use the functional stool test
Yeah.
to see what are the toxins that are built up.
Right.
Use natural herbs rather than antibiotics, because then we're eradicating your good bacteria again,
Right.
to
Yep.
remove them. So to answer your question, your gut doesn't fight back because you're bringing good
Mhm.
support to the army that's in your gut.
Right. Right.
However, some of the symptoms still persist, and
Right.
this is where we see individuals that have made that diet change, but they're still having a hard time.
Right.
And so that's where it's important then to dive a little deeper, see what's happening, remove the toxins,
Right.
then your army is strong and can take over, and you can see all the benefits. Your
Right.
body's feeling lighter and healthier.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, that's a great, like, I think that's a great point for people to hear again, is that just because something doesn't work initially doesn't mean it can't work, period. It means that, okay, maybe I didn't address the full
Yes.
thing that's going on. Maybe I didn't realize that there's toxins going on because, I know a lot of people that are, hearing different things, whether it's this podcast or other influence, and they're like, oh, I'm going to try this because, research says it works, or this person says it works, or, but without truly knowing what's going on in their body and getting the testing done first, just throwing an herb in there to try and get something to work may or may not, and probably more likely may not, have the result that you're looking for.
Yes. Yes. So I think that it's very important to be mindful making that change.
Mhm.
That's commendable,
Yeah.
and you do feel better when you're making some changes in your nutrition and support.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Ultimately, to get the full effect, you really need to see what's going on,
Yeah.
and a lot of this and a lot of this, many podcasts, there's TikTok,
Hmm. Hmm.
there's a lot of social media that talks about you can remove your gut microbiome by using this supplement or this
Yep.
supplement. But again, it's kind of like antibiotics. When
Yeah.
you are dealing with supplements, you want to make sure you're seeking a professional advice. And
Right.
I don't mean the individual that's working at the wellness shop.
Right. Right.
You need somebody who's been a little bit, have some degree in
Yep.
the area, because every single herb does different,
Yep.
works differently in your body. It's the same as drugs. You don't want to start
Mhm.
taking medication without advice.
Right.
So I would recommend the same thing. If you are trying to target a symptom that nothing is resolving, then you should seek professional advice, see what else is going on,
Yeah.
because something is off individually for you and might not be for somebody else that tried the same product.
Right. And that's where, like you said, the schooling and the functional approach of looking at the whole body, so that we don't wind up masking a
Yeah.
symptom that, or a root cause that's going on, because, there may be a way to mask it for a little term, and you might be like, okay, that's fine. And, and I'll go back and use my wife as an example, because she went through Weight Watchers and it did really, really well, is according to the scale. But as soon as she started realizing, like, well, wait, but they let me eat this, but that's not really healthy, but it's okay to eat. So, like, I'm gonna start tweaking this, and then things started changing back, and the weight started coming back, and she was like, okay, well, I don't like this either. Um, and there's things from her past that, like, she did, that there's still, I believe, side effects going on in her body from different drugs that she took when she was young, as far like she took Accutane and other things that I
Yes.
know played a role in, like, messing up function in her body. Um, and And so it's addressing those things. And sometimes not having a functional doctor that's going to look back and go like, tell me everything,
Yes. Yes.
because a traditional doctor is going to say, where are you in this moment? And let's fix this moment.
Yes.
But it could be something from 20 or 30 years ago that could still be a toxin that's affecting your body because it's in there.
Yes. And you're absolutely correct because the symptoms linger.
Yeah.
So, just how you said, I hear you about your wife, a lot of people have gone through the same thing where they've
Mhm.
done Weight Watchers or they've done intermittent fasting, which is
Mhm.
great initially because
Mhm.
it shows you how to portion a little better and
Sure.
modify and balance out your food.
Right.
But ultimately, again, we're so different.
Yeah.
And so you hit a plateau
Yep.
and you're not addressing some of the other factors that are going on.
Mhm.
Even with, we were talking earlier about weight loss drugs,
Yep.
they're targeting the weight, but if your body has imbalance going on, even
Mhm.
hormones and insulin sensitivity, those are not being addressed.
Right.
And so taking that step and going a little further, it's kind of like an investment
Oh yeah.
in your health. You know,
Yeah.
I tell my clients all the time, it's an investment in your health. It's not something you can see right now,
Mhm.
but in the next couple of months, you see a huge difference.
Right.
And understanding your body and knowing because this is a body that we have.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can't
You
change
only have one.
it. We only have one. We can't change
Yep.
it. We can do a lot of things to it, but we can't
Yep.
change it. So we
Yeah.
have to understand it so we can support each other. It's a mutual process.
Yeah. And everybody's is different, and it's
Yes.
it's the melting pot of the US, and so many other countries are becoming the same way, of so many cultures coming in. And it when you think about, okay, well, but it's the gut microbiome and the bacteria from those different cultures that are now mingling. And so it's something that completely makes everybody totally unique.
Yes, yes. And you said about cultures, which is so important.
Mhm.
We have an Ayurvedic practitioner in our health wellness who targets individuals and helps with Ayurvedic herbs. And we see that depending on what nationality, certain supplements and certain herbs work better for you.
Right.
So again, it has a lot to do with your genetic makeup,
Mhm.
what your body has gone through, and using that, your genes and using your genetic makeup to help
Yeah.
support your body is a key
Yeah.
because, again, no matter where we came from, we can't use the same diet, same type of food. Our
Right.
bodies are different. And
Yeah.
the culture makes a huge impact as well.
Right. And that's why one of the things that a lot of my clients will get, initially they'll fight back on is, if it's a female that comes to me and is like, okay, I want to make some nutrition changes in my life and da 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 da, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll do, but my husband doesn't want to have it. He doesn't want to change anything, and I don't want to make two meals. So how can I? And I'm like, okay, well, stop putting roadblocks up in front of yourself from making these changes, because ultimately you probably do need to eat two different meals a lot of times. Just like when you go to a restaurant, you order two different things. Like, and I know it can be more complicated at home, but you probably do need to have more of a variety of things for each person, especially when it comes to you and your spouse, because you're different. Your kids, okay, now they're mingled, they're
Mhm.
closer together, but biologically, but you're different, and so your bodies are probably going to react differently to the food that you eat.
Yes. And I find my men clients are very easy. Now,
Hmm.
if your wife is going through something, they want to support
Right.
and they want to help out.
Yeah.
And so I find a lot of times it's our own obstacle
Hmm.
of wanting because the spouse and partner is absolutely fine
Yeah.
with the changes, and if they don't like it, they can always seek outside
Right.
to bring something else in
Yeah.
if the meal is not right.
Right.
But it's you make the individual making that change. My male clients are absolutely fine. They're very easygoing. They have
Yeah.
no problem. It's women, we have a lot of things going on, and we
Mhm.
are the caretaker, and we
Right.
take it that we have to please everyone.
Right.
We have to please our kids. We have to please our spouse. And so we find that if we have to make this change and help our bodies, then what's happening with everybody else?
Mhm.
And having do we have no, I don't have time to make two meals. I can't do this. And you
Right.
absolutely the roadblocks, the obstacles come in
Yeah.
where there are many ways that can be supported. So if we are changing our diet and we need to order um, even foods, that there are certain food delivery systems that are clean, that we
Right.
can use that for ourselves if you
Yep.
want to make something else for the rest of the family. But even having that conversation
Mhm.
with the family, I find a lot of spouses are happy
Yeah.
because they know whatever the symptoms going is impacting them as well.
Oh, sure.
It's impacting the
Mhm.
house.
Yep.
And so you never want to see your loved one suffer.
Right. Well, and I do agree with that. And usually what happens is the female's saying that, but the husband is like, I'll eat whatever. Like,
Yes.
the wife is projecting their feeling of like that on the husband, and the husband's like, I don't care. I'll eat whatever you put in front of me, most of the time. Because I think they're just happy they don't have to cook,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
And so it's those self-imposed obstacles that we put on ourselves that ultimately is also increasing our stress level and increasing our anxieties. And again, going back to the hormones, is it starts that hormone imbalance when we've like almost made that up ourselves.
Hmm. Hmm. We're feeding into the hormones,
Yeah.
that we're elevating that cortisol more, that's impacting the thyroid and sensitivity, the progesterone, we're impacting, the estrogen because of all the stress that we're building, and the gut holds it in.
Yeah.
Some For majority of women, we hold things in. We don't go and express it, or we're not screaming at our kids, or we're not screaming
Right.
at everybody about what's going on, the fight that's happening in our body.
Right.
And so these hormones and the changes at our body, and the mood swings, the
Yeah.
weight gain, the anxiety, is are being impacted, and they're being amplified
Yeah.
more and more, which can be frustrating.
Yep. Oh, totally. And I think that symptoms or not, whether you have something that's really going on and it's debilitating to that point,
Yes.
or I think just the frustration is a symptom.
Yes.
And if you find yourself starting to get frustrated with nutrition and eating and trying to have that balance, like I think that's the like the early onset almost of like I'm about to have problems in the next couple of months if I don't find help and get this taken care of. And at that point, help can be professional help. Help can be, somebody who's just there to listen and say, I feel my stress coming up. I need somebody to talk to and get rid of it. And a lot of times we don't take advantage of that opportunity.
Yes. Yes. And interesting enough, Jerry, a lot of people just use AI.
Yeah, yeah.
As I had clients that call me and they're like, well, ChatGPT created this for me, and
Hmm.
I'm just listening, and I'm like, okay, so ChatGPT dealt with all your hormones that you're going through,
Right,
with all your environmental factors.
right,
So absolutely seeking professional help, because diet and nutrition are different.
right.
It's not easy to change up your foods, and definitely as we get older, we can't eat the same things as we did before.
Right.
We have to support our bodies in a different way. We can enjoy some of the things that we did before, but not on a regular day.
Yeah,
Every day it's not the same.
yeah,
So this is where I find it's helpful to really finding out what can help you in terms of nourishing your body,
yeah.
because it's not as simple as it looks that, okay, I'm just going to eat this or eat that. But there's a lot of information that comes from food and
Right.
how it impacts your body.
Yep. And when you know what it is that is going to help you the most, then you can have those splurges and know that it's not going to completely derail your life
Yes.
and throw you off and be like, oh, well, um, I had that cheat meal, quote unquote, and now my diet's, messed up. And so it doesn't matter what I eat for the next couple of days because I've already messed it up.
Yes.
You can
Yes.
have those, and I call them splurges, but that's what most people think about them nowadays. It's like, I can't really have that because it's not, but you can do that and your body's going to be okay and you get back on track and everything's fine because you know what's appropriate for what you want to feel.
Yes. It's kind of that if you injure a body part, let's say you broke your
Hmm.
arm, if you support it and make it stronger here and there, if you use more weight on that arm, it's not like every time it's going to break
Right.
or it's going to fail on you. It's the same
Hmm.
thing where if you supported your body, you're entitled to vacation. You're
Yeah.
entitled to celebrate your birthday or
Yep.
certain celebrations, and you don't have to feel deprived
Right.
or feel that, well, I just messed everything up and my
Right.
body is going to go back to where it was before. That your body has the ability to bounce back.
Yep. So, Sahar, tell us how we can follow what you're doing at Inner Health and Wellness.
We are on social media. We're on Instagram,
Hmm.
LinkedIn, but our website, innerhealthwellness.com, is a great way to find out information. We've also recently started a YouTube channel to
Oh,
bring
cool.
more education.
Awesome.
Um, so we have our health coach and our personal trainer that's offering tips and recipes on there as well.
Awesome. So is there anything that you've come across with the clients that you've dealt with that would be like that moment of, okay, you're dealing with frustration and you're nervous about taking that step and seeking help. Like what does somebody need to help them know that it's okay and it's comfortable and this is what you should do?
Yes. I tell my clients, if you're stuck, if you're frustrated with your body and you feel unheard, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Women, a lot of other women are dealing with the same things,
Hmm.
and your body's just talking back
Right.
and saying it needs help. So this is where we come in to help support you. We want to hear your body
Yeah.
and help it so you can feel better, because what you're going through is 90% of women
Hmm.
um, either are going through it now or will be going through it.
Right.
And so it's okay. Let's
Yeah.
talk about it. Let's
Right.
let's work at it.
Right. Well, I think that's a huge piece is that it's and I remember when my wife went through um, for her first miscarriage, and we started telling people that were close to us about it, and we found out like, oh yeah, this person had one, this person had one. Like you don't hear about it, but it's super common. And I think the frustration with women going through different changes in their life and the hormones and things, it may be more common because we think and we see the media's push of you need to look a certain way. But the actual frustrations and what's going on in your head and the stress levels and the hormone changes and all that, it's happening to everybody. And so it does need
Yes.
to be talked about.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. The more we talk about it, one, we feel better
Mhm.
that there are
Yeah.
others around us are going through it. So we
Yeah.
don't feel this is something that's just us and targeted at
Yeah.
us. And then we can also see what other individuals have used, who they've,
Right.
if there is a professional that they've used, what do they recommend, and
Right.
have a resource of individuals to look for and investigate what would support you
Right.
rather than trying to do it all by yourself.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Sahar, so much for being a guest. It's been great information.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks for checking out the Confidence Through Health podcast. Please subscribe, post a review, share this episode with those you love who need a little extra help with their health journey. Visit allinhealthandwellness.com to learn more about the coaching programs that I provide. All episodes are produced by the Social Media Cowboys, your source for all online marketing needs. Go to socialmediacowboys.com for more information.